What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hockey Sense. Great to have you with us, as always, for our Friday tradition, brought to you by First Community. Lots of great stuff ahead, man, today. We're going to talk some hockey, man. We've got hockey at all levels that we're talking about. Frozen Four, Stanley Cup playoffs around the corner. We're talking St. Louis Blues. I don't know why I put these things on. Andrew Raycroft's going to join me in a little bit. You saw him in studio last night working the Frozen Four. Does that every year. He can talk pucks from an NHL standpoint, too. So he follows the NHL very, very closely, probably even closer than he does the college game, although he's highly involved on the college side. So we can get into a number of different things with him. Jamal Mayers may join us, too. Jamal was supposed to be traveling, but he's so excited because Western Michigan has advanced to the first ever Frozen Four championship game. He's a proud Bronco alum, so there's a chance we may catch up with Jamal as well. Great games last night at the Enterprise Center. I always enjoy watching college hockey. I love watching it. I don't feel like this is the strongest Frozen Four that we've seen in recent years. I know there's been some criticism about the attendance. I think they announced 16,000 plus. They're saying it's the second lowest attendance number since COVID. Make that of whatever you want. I mean, listen, back in 2007, St. Louis broke records for the most, for the highest attendance in the history of the Frozen Four in a arena up to that point. So I think sometimes it comes down to, or not sometimes, I think it does come down to what teams are involved, who travels and who doesn't. Can't just rely on the local attendance. A lot of local people there. I ran into so many hockey people last night. That's always great to see. Always enjoy seeing people and saying hello to everyone and people who you see all the time. Some people who you never see. Hockey people from all over the league are here. So hope everyone's enjoying their time here in St. Louis. But, Western Michigan, they get to the first ever final, but they're not going to travel the same way that maybe a Minnesota would or a North Dakota would, or maybe even a Michigan, but they had the best representation of all the teams that are here. I thought Penn State would travel a little bit better just because of, the fans there having experience traveling and supporting other sports. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't what I expected. Boston, kind of what I expected. And Denver, pretty much what I expected. Not what I expected on the ice, though, from Denver. We'll talk to Andrew Raycroft coming up with that in a couple of minutes here on the show. The Blues are in Seattle. They've got to win one more game to solidify their ticket to the dance for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just one game. Losing in regulation, that was tough the other night in Edmonton. They now lost 2 games in a row. We can talk about penalties that weren't called and a lot of the antics that we saw in the first period with Jordan Binnington getting worked up with Corey Perry, doing what Corey Perry does, which is getting under the skin. And I don't mind Binnington showing a little bit of fire, man. He's been pretty reserved throughout the course of the season, but sometimes you got to remind the rest of the league that, hey, he still has that ability to go crazy. Don't poke the bear because he may get upset. Not that he's going to hurt you, but listen, he's going to bring a level of intensity and he's going to fight back. So you always like to see that from Binnington. I don't know what kind of impact that had on the game, if any. But the Blues, listen, even when they're losing, they're still finding ways to get back into games. They've lost by a goal pretty much in both of their losses to Winnipeg. I know Winnipeg got an empty netter with like 9 seconds left in the game. That was pretty much a 1-goal game. The Blues were not good in that game where they had 3 shots on goal in the first period. So they've got to get back to, playing at the pace and with the structure that they showed over the course of that 12-game winning streak. And let's be honest, I know it was a 12-game winning streak, but it's not like the Blues just played, error-free hockey for all 12 games. I mean, there were some games where they were finding ways to win when they didn't play their best hockey, and that's one of the reasons why the streak was so impressive for the Blues, was that they were winning games when maybe you could make the case the other team was better on that night. But that's hockey. Couple turnovers by the Blues defense, leading to scoring chances, leading to goals. You don't typically see that. You don't typically see the breakdowns, net front. For the most part, That's why the Blues have been so successful. It has been because of their play defensively. We talk about all the experience they have on the back end, not giving up a whole lot in transition, no real breakaways, no odd man rushes. You saw Edmonton on a couple of occasions get loose. The Blues were getting stretched out. Some, stretch passes for Edmonton, allowed them to, create some fast break opportunities. Skinner had one. McDavid was just dancing. He missed a wide open net late in the game. So, Blues, they were fortunate from that standpoint. Skinner misses a wide open net. And then Bouchard gets the call on the trip. And their power play didn't last very long at all anyway, because then McDavid gets the interference penalty on Robert Thomas. So I didn't have a huge issue with the no call at the end of the game. I know people are upset about it. And yeah, was it typically a play that you would see a penalty called? Yeah. But they just called 2 penalties back to back. Both teams got one. Relatively evenly played game. And listen, if I'm a referee, I'm not looking to make another call in that situation. And Walker still got a shot off, on the play. So it's not like it prevented him from getting a shot. I don't know. I can see why people are being upset about it, but it is what it is. The Blues are just not the same team right now without Dylan Holloway. They got to figure that out because, Holloway, increased the overall team speed, and he had such great chemistry with Kyrou. It just gave them, a 1-2 punch up front, with the Thomas line, with the Kyrou line, both lines going at the same time. I should say the Shen line. We always refer to the lines by the center. So I'll say the Shen line. And Shen looked quicker playing with Holloway and Kyrou. So not having Holloway has forced, Jim Montgomery to make some adjustments with how he, is utilizing his forward lines. He moved Kyrou up to play with Thomas and Buchnevich, which was great. All 3 of those guys had great games. They factored in on all the goals. They played with a lot of pace. They held on to pucks. They made plays. They looked dangerous. Thought Kyrou had his best game since Holloway has gone out. He didn't look like himself in the first 2 games without Holloway. Getting back with Thomas and Buchnevich is probably the right play to get him going. But, then, you just kind of drop off a little bit after that. It's amazing how losing one player can just change things. So you hope to get Holloway back. I don't think there's any guarantee that you do. I don't expect to see him here in the regular season. Can they get him back? There should be a good little gap, 3, 4, 5 days, something like that, between the last game of the regular season that the Blues play and the first playoff game. If the playoffs start on the 20th, they're going to get a good little break there between their last game and the beginning of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But even if you get Holloway back, I don't know, where he's going to be health-wise, if he's going to be close to 100%. Probably won't be 100%, but still getting him back at the lineup should give the Blues a little bit of a boost of confidence if they can get him. But again, there's no guarantee that they do at all. I want to make that clear. Some would maybe even say it's unlikely you get him back, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. One player you will get back is Colton Parayko. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays tomorrow night in Seattle. Nobody has said that. I don't believe they practiced yesterday. There wasn't a whole lot of information coming out yesterday out of if the Blues are already in Seattle. So I would imagine they'll get back on the ice today. I know, talking to Parayko, that he feels like he's ready to go. Physically. Mentally is a little bit of a different story. He wanted to give it some more time. There was no rush to get him back in the lineup because the Blues were on that hot streak. But talking to him, he basically told me that he would like to get a couple of games in before the playoffs, just to get that timing down and take a couple of bumps, get that confidence in the knee, and get ready to go for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But they still have to win one more game. I mean, listen, Calgary's got 4 games left. The Blues have 2. You want to take care of business tomorrow night in Seattle and just not give Calgary any hope. Although they've got some tough games coming up. They've got to play Vegas. They've got some other tough games as well. They've got to play Minnesota. Minnesota's getting healthy. They got Eriksson Ek back. They got Kaprizov back. We'll see if they get the Z Bulliam kid from Denver, who didn't have a great game in the Frozen Four. That was not his best showing. And I'm not going to sit there and be critical because I've seen him play great games in the past, and he's a great player, whether you watch him at Denver or in the World Juniors. But he didn't have his best game. I thought he'd be a little more assertive in the game, kind of sat back, wasn't very aggressive, had that one nice play in overtime. We'll talk to Andrew Raycroft about that. I don't want to get all into the Frozen Four when we're going to talk about it coming up here shortly. But it was good to see Dvorsky get back in the lineup. I thought he looked pretty good early in the game. He had a couple nice scoring chances. Pickard made some great saves on him. Snuggerud, maybe not as dangerous as he looked in the home games. I thought he came out looking really, really strong. I mean, talking to some scouts, too, who watched the games in St. Louis, specifically that game against Colorado. I mean, this guy was all over the place. I mean, he almost looked amazing. I mean, one guy said he looked amazing. That was his exact quote about Snuggerud against Colorado. So I'm glad that these guys are getting the experience. Listen, yeah, the Blues should get into the playoffs. I mean, you had that type of cushion. You've got a 5-point cushion with 2 games to go in the regular season. I know Calgary's got 4 games to go. So they should 1,000%. If they don't get in, that would be a dramatic collapse. But I will say the season is already a win for me. I mean, the way they played down the stretch, the way Holloway played, the way Broberg played in their first year here in St. Louis, just getting a glimpse of what those guys are going to mean to the organization moving forward. Getting an opportunity to get Snuggerud here and have him play some meaningful games is going to be so important moving forward. And same with Dvorsky. I mean, think about Snuggerud, the teams that he's played against since he's gotten here. Like, welcome to the NHL. You have Montreal, you have Crosby, or maybe it was Detroit was his first game. I'm trying to remember. Patrick Kane, Crosby, McKinnon, Makar. You go to Winnipeg, one of the best teams in the league, and then you go face Connor McDavid. I mean, he's seen a lot over the course of his first week as an NHL player. And I like what I see from Snuggerud. I want to see him get on the board. Hopefully he can pop one in before the end of the season, maybe get a couple, and take that confidence into next season and certainly into the summer with him. No issues with Snuggerud whatsoever. But you want to see the Blues tighten things up a little bit defensively, but also, getting Tyler Tucker in the lineup, playing meaningful games. I keep asking the question, who's going to come out of the lineup when Parayko is back? And I think the easy answer would be Tyler Tucker. That's the easy answer. He's playing his offside right now. You could just plug in Parayko on his natural right side and call it a day. Some have suggested that Ryan Suter could be the odd man out. I don't know if I would do that. I mean, you kept this guy past the deadline for a reason. You signed him for a reason. It's his last kick at the can, most likely, to try to win and to play in the playoffs, unless for some reason he decides to play next year. I know he would like to play next year, but he would like to play here. I don't know if that's in the cards for the St. Louis Blues and Ryan Suter moving into next season. I mean, they've gotten a lot of great play out of him. He's come here. He's been better than advertised. I know there was a perception of Ryan Suter, and we'll get into that maybe after the season, hopefully get him on. But I've had a chance to interview him, long-form interview. We did it on YouTube on the Blues YouTube channel. You should check that out. They call it The Late Shift. And I talked to Ryan Suter for like 45 minutes on there about a lot of different things, man. Super cool guy, great guy. And I'm sure he's changed as he's gotten older. He's 40 years old now. Probably isn't the same as he was when he was 28, 29, 30. A little bit of a different situation in terms of the role he plays. He's not the face of the franchise. He's not the highest paid player on the team. Doesn't have the same pressure that he was facing back then. So you can't compare this stage of his career versus his prime seasons. But he's a good guy, really good guy. And I love talking to him, man. He makes me laugh. He's funny. And I like watching him play, too. You want to see him be on the plus side with some of these games. He's been on the ice for a couple of goals here recently, which you don't want to see from, Ryan Suter. Let's see the other day. against the Oilers. He was, what was his plus minus in that game? I know he was on he ended up being even. Played 16.5. He was even. -2 for Falk. He had a couple really bad turnovers. Justin Falk did. So anyway, they got to tighten things up. Seattle's not very good. It's the worst team they're going to play on this road trip. So this is a more than winnable game. Blues started the season in Seattle, and now they go back there for their last road game of the season. So the first road game of the season was in Seattle, last road game of the season in Seattle. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I mentioned Calgary, man. Calgary they've got some tough games coming up, including tonight. Although they've got Minnesota at home Sunday, and they've got no back-to-backs the rest of the way. Sunday, they've got San Jose. You'd think that'd be a winnable game, but a terrible loss for Calgary the other night against Anaheim. They had a 3-1 lead late in that game, and they lost. So those are 2 home games. A third home game, they got Vegas coming. That's on Tuesday. And then Thursday, they finish up their season on the road against L.A. You just never know who L.A. is going to dress in that game. L.A. with a big win last night. They look like I think they've solidified their place there, right? Well, they're up by 4 over Edmonton. They should have home ice advantage over the Edmonton Oilers. Some of these matchups are already determined when you look at the East. Toronto, they're going to play Ottawa. Tampa Bay and Florida, they're fighting for home ice advantage. We'll see how that plays out between Tampa and Florida. Florida's won a couple of games here. There was some thought maybe that Florida would fall back into a wild card position and maybe they would play Toronto in the first round. I thought they were tanking the other day. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I couldn't believe how many players were not playing in a game a couple of games ago. They didn't have Forsling. They didn't have Bennett. They didn't have Kulikov. They didn't have Barkov. Obviously, no Kachuk. Obviously, no Ekblad. I mean, it was just like one guy after the next that wasn't playing in the game. Forsling, Barkov, Bennett, Reinhart didn't play. I mean, it was crazy. But they found a way to get back on track. So we'll see what happens with the Blues here moving forward. We're going to talk some NHL. We'll also get into the Frozen Four coming up with Andrew Raycroft. I always want to say Raycroft, but it's Raycroft, of course. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week live from the Half Coast Studios. Man, so many different ways, different directions I can go in with First Community. Let's talk about the Smart Choice Home Loan, because this is important if you're looking to buy a new home, even if you're just thinking about it. If you have big news, or I've got big news from First Community. You already know they're one of the largest home lenders in the area. They've always had that wide range of home loan products, from first-time buyer loans to jumbo loans, but now there's something new for every borrower. It's the Smart Choice Home Loan. This new mortgage product has a rate of 6.75%. I talked about this last week, too. This is for all qualified borrowers. Comes with a 30-year fixed rate. I mean, that's crazy. So, yes, fixed rate. 30-year fixed rate. You don't have to think about your rate adjusting in a few years. All you need is a 10% down payment. No PMI. No fees for the application, no fees for processing, no fees for underwriting. You know, they get you with all these fees. You don't have any of that with this Smart Choice Home Loan from First Community. Call them today at firstcommunity.com. They'll hook you up and take care of you. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download that app today. They've got so many great deals, they call them steals. All over the place, man. Don't sleep on the party supplies also. They've got all the great paper goods and everything you need for your upcoming graduation parties, Easter brunches, or whatever else you're looking for. Best selection of beer, wine, and booze. They've got cigars. They've got an incredible walk-in beer cooler, so check that out as well. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Four Hands Brewing Company. Get that mango lemonade, Cam and Strick podcast. Mango lemonade, hard seltzer. Anywhere you get your Four Hands Brewing Company products. Blue Note Roofing. David Novak's going to join me here in studio later in the show. 314-920-5713. He's the best in the business. Roofing, gutters, soffit, fascia, siding, whatever it is you're looking for. David Novak will take care of you big time. So let them do so, especially if you got any roofing damage or damage from those crazy storms we've had here in the area over the course of the last 3 weeks or so. He's the guy to call. 314-920-5713. Works with all the major insurance companies. David Novak, Blue Note Roofing. Let's take a break. We'll catch up with Andrew Raycroft, man. Looking forward to it. He's busy. I heard him on NHL Network Radio this morning. He's calling games last night in studio with the Frozen Four. So it's got time for us, though, man. We appreciate that here on Hockey Sense. Andrew Raycroft is next here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. We're live in the Half Coast Studios. Don't go anywhere. All right, back here on Hockey Sense. Great to have you with us. Andrew Raycroft, former Calder Trophy winner. Where is that Calder Trophy? You got it hanging in your house somewhere?
It's in my oldest son's bedroom. I actually looked at it the other day. I need to get it polished up. It hasn't been cleaned. Now it's 21 years, so it needs to get a little refurbishing done. And there's no man cave or office in my house yet, so it's just kind of there.
I remember asking Barrett Jackman, and he probably won his right around the same time that you won yours. And I'm like, do you get to keep that big ass trophy? He's like, no, I think they give us like he didn't even know. This is the night that he won. So what is it? Do you get a replica or do you get the actual trophy that we see?
No, it's the replica. So it's probably, I don't know, 15 inches high. It's cool. It's really cool. But again, not with 15-year-old and twin 12-year-olds in my house. It's just not an on the scene kind of situation there. It's just chaos in my house. But someday it'll have a good spot.
Twin 12-year-olds and a 15-year-old. I got 14, 11, and 8. Do you have boys or girls?
So you're in the same. I have a older boy, and then boy-girl twins.
Okay. So I hear you talking minor hockey, though. Like, I'm knee-deep into it also with my son. Like, who are your kids playing? Like, how old are your kids? Tell me, like, where they play and all that.
Sure. So my older guy's 15. He turns 16 later in the summer. So he's doing the prep school thing here in Mass. He's actually moving out in the fall and going out to Cushing Academy to play.
Really?
With Ryan Bork and his crew. So he's excited about that. So with him, I'm kind of like getting out of the minor hockey thing, which is kind of cool. And then my boy-girl twins, she plays with the girls, he plays with the boys, and they have good teams where we don't have drama. There's not a lot of turnover, not a lot of chaos. So I feel very fortunate to be out of those weeds.
Yeah, that's important. Last summer, my son actually played with the Boston Junior Bruins, like a couple of spring tournaments. So I was learning all about this Federal League and everything that goes on there in Boston. So
not good. Mass hockey has a monster problem, and again, I'm just trying to navigate my kids through it to have fun. So you're supposed to have fun playing the sport.
I know. Are you able to have an influence? Like, I mean, as an NHL guy, like, do they listen to the NHL guys? Like, here in St. Louis, so we've got a lot of NHL alumni who live here, heavily involved in youth hockey, and for the most part, they will listen to the NHLers as they should. How about you guys?
No. my sense is, and when I think about St. Louis or Michigan or Minnesota, my sense is there's a lot less business, a lot less dollars involved. Here in the Northeast, it's just and I know there's still money, and listen, it's a $1 billion industry, but here it's gone a little off the rails. And nobody listens to me at all. No one will, because what would I know about any of this stuff? Everyone else is completely knows, and everybody's kid's going to make it to the NHL, and they'll be the different ones. So no, unfortunately, Mass hockey doesn't really want to listen to me.
Okay. Listen to the guy who got cut by the varsity team twice, not the guy who played in the NHL.
Exactly. Well, I got cut too. Like I did get. I wasn't a first overall OHL pick. I was far from it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But unfortunately, these 7-year-old parents and 7-year-old Mass hockey coaches want to make the jump.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll have that conversation at another day. I always love to hear different people's perspectives who are going through the same thing. But for the most part, most of it is positive. But it's just as you get older and older, it's just interesting, how as your kids get older, it changes from, one level to the next as you get older. So, What's keeping you busy right now? Is it the Bruins? Is it the Frozen Four? Are you a little bit of everything? Like, are you have time to watch all this college hockey and focus on the NHL?
Yes, this is the busiest time here. I've done the regionals and the Frozen Four now for 5 or 6 years. So I have the schedule down pretty good. Of course, being again in the Northeast, I see a ton of this college hockey all winter long, especially in the back half of the season. Come January, it kind of, my Friday nights kind of turn, and I have an eye on the college hockey stuff. While Bruins are the main meal, but of course, right now that meal is making me hungry. There's not a lot on the plate with those guys. So the Frozen Four, and now I got the championship game Saturday and one more Bruins game Tuesday, and we're gonna call it quits.
All right, listen, I got to ask you about real quick. We'll get into the Frozen Four, but Jim Montgomery, who's now here in St. Louis, he's had a lot of success. He's had a huge impact on this team. I think having that Four Nations break allowed him to sit back and evaluate what he has, who he wants to play with, who make some adjustments, kind of have like a mini training camp coming out of the break. But are they regretting letting him go? Like, was that expected? I know that there was a lot of talk, but you being close to the organization, did you think they were actually going to fire him?
Well, certainly not. I never, and again, being around the team and being around teams a long time, you never really talk about firing or think about it or even put that on the table. But no, like you just said, Monty's the best. Monty's an unbelievable coach. He's a great guy. He's a great person to have around. I enjoyed really spending time with him and like talking to him a lot. So I was really hopeful they'd be able to get a deal done. But what doesn't surprise me or what didn't surprise me is with the team struggling and without being able to get to a contract that worked for both sides, then that decision has to get made. It's really hard to go an entire year if the two sides, if you can't get to an arrangement business wise at the end of the season, and then you're really dealing with a lame duck situation. So I completely understand both sides of it. I think from a public perspective, of course, when Bruins fans see the way they've gone compared to the way St. Louis has gone, it's easy to say, oh, we should have kept Monty. But as we all know, inside the business, there's more than just there's a lot more nuance to it. So again, I understand both Monty and the Bruins' point of view and how they had to do business. And fortunately for Monty, he's gone home. He loves St. Louis. He talked about St. Louis all the time when he was here, and it's a great place for him and his family. And then to have the Blues take off the way they did is a testament to him, but also to Doug Armstrong and everybody else making that decision there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know Monty for a long time, so you knew that he would jump at this opportunity. That's why it happened so quickly, and he had the prior relationship with the organization too, and knows a lot of people in the organization very, very well. So, but real quick, not many have broken it down like that, but this was it was more of a contract situation than because his performance, obviously it is what it is. They won a ton of games in the regular season, maybe didn't have the playoff success, but if you can't get to an agreement on a contract extension, this is kind of the result, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Again, all these decisions that get made in this league all have, tentacles to it. And if the Bruins were at that point were 15-0, I think the contract wouldn't have been an issue. We'll figure this out. We'll keep watching and how this goes. But when the team's struggling and you can't get that assurance on the other side of it, both as coach and both as team, then the decisions get harder to make, and that typically, that's kind of where they ended up from where I am.
Yeah, we've seen over the years guys get traded at the deadline, then re-sign with their team in the offseason. We saw that with Big Walt here in St. Louis. Dougie Wade did the same thing. Could you see Marchand coming back?
Typically, I would say no. Typically, Big Walt and Dougie Wade, those guys. I guess a kind of similar situation as Brad, but it typically doesn't happen with these guys. But in Brad's situation, I do think he left the door open. I think the team left the door open. I think the way the Bruins were getting rid of pieces at the deadline and their decision to really, get rid of older guys and move on. I think they did Brad a solid. Obviously, moving him to Florida was not something that the team would typically do. I think that shows favor there. And then just hearing Brad's comments while he's been in Florida, and he certainly did anything but close the door. So I wouldn't. It's far from a certainty, I even that I would have probably put the odds over 50%, but in a lot of cases I'd say zero, and I don't say zero in this one.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I mean, just his comments in his opening press conference. I mean, just thanking Don Sweeney for getting him to Florida, and then for how they handled everything. He was very appreciative and very respectful, and really pumped the tires of the people who are in charge there in Boston. Who would be the next captain? Obviously there's two choices. I would think, I guess, between McAvoy and Pasta. So who would you go with?
So a year ago, I would have said up next, no question, and seems synonymous with the Boston Bruins that a back end player is a captain. Whether it's Bobby to Ray to Zdeno, I think of the Boston Bruins having a defenseman be their leader, and that, of course, lines up to 73 Charlie McAvoy. But what's changed over the last 6 months is David Pasternak's emergence as a leader. It has been really incredible, the vacuum that he's filled with his of course, the play on the ice alone is MVP like. Again, their last place, so that's crazy to say. But you look at what he's done; he factors in on every goal since the break, and he hasn't. Again, full disclosure, he's had maybe 1.5 bad games since then, where a lot of guys at this point with that kind of weight on their shoulders would mail it in more than 1.5 games. Yeah. It's been really incredible. So to your question, David's much more in the mix than I thought he would have been a year ago. It's a pick 'em at this point, and I can definitely see a situation where they don't name a captain over this summer. They have a few assistant captains, of course, being Charlie and David at the forefront, and they let things settle for a year. And that's I kind of see that playing out the way the Bruins have a lot of uncertainty now, and how the summer's going to play out. I could see them just pumping the brakes on who this captain is right now and really making a decision over the years.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
No, they're both awesome. They're both awesome. And Charlie would have probably had the opportunity, of course, with Brad out to kind of be involved too, but with his injury, he just hasn't been around. And again, another reason to maybe just wait till everybody's in the mix, wait till everyone gets together in the fall, and see how the dressing room and how that leadership core takes its turn.
How many goals did Ovechkin score on you?
3 goals on 30 shots. So I've felt better. I've got the videos of the goals, and so yeah, we with Ovi breaking the record, of course, paid a lot more attention, tried to figure out and dig in exactly where I was at over the last month or so.
One-timers, close to the net, fast break goals, what were they?
2, no highlight reel goals, 2 bang-in rebound type goals where he got inside the D, and then one-timer, but it went off one of my guys in front. So it wasn't like a straight one-timer ripped over my shoulder. It was a bit of a deflection on net. So I guess in one way, I'm glad I'm not Brian Boucher, who has to see the highlight over and over and over again, but also a highlight reel goal from him would have been kind of cool too.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, it's a badge of honor to have somebody like that, break a record with you in between the pipes. So you didn't get a Budweiser can then? All these other goaltenders are getting these Budweisers who didn't let in any goals.
I want something. Like they better figure something out. I know there's 180 of us, but come on. I mean, it's the National League. Budweiser could crank out 180 beers to all of us or something like that too. So yeah, I was disappointed in those guys. The zero guys were the ones that are really part of the history. So I'm expecting something.
I know. Listen, I hate the Mount Rushmore conversation. It's more geared towards the NBA for me. You hear these guys talk Mount Rushmore ad nauseum. Mm-hmm. But like Cam Jansen said on our podcast the other day, I mean, he's like taking Bobby Orr off, and he's like, I got to have Ovi on there. He's the all-time leader in goals. He's got to be on there. I'm like, you can't take Bobby Orr off of the Mount Rushmore, though. What are you talking about? Like, this guy's he's one of the top 2 or 3 players ever, certainly the best defenseman ever. I'll be curious what we're saying about Makar when his career is all said and done and what his numbers look like, because he's hitting 90 points and back-to-back seasons. I think only a handful of players, defensemen in the history of the game have ever done that, have consecutive seasons with 90 points or more. Where do you place Ovi? I mean, is he up there with Mario and Wayne and Crosby and Orr, who I would have on my Mount Rushmore? How about you? I'm just curious your take on it.
So we talk again. This is great radio talk, podcast talk.
Yeah.
We did this on NHL radio a few days ago, and I had to actually kind of think about it. So of course, Wayne, for me, Wayne and Bobby and Gordy are they're just different. Like they're there, and so I guess my Mount Rushmore would be Wayne, Mario, Gordy, and Bobby. Those are my four.
Nothing wrong
And
with that. Yeah.
I think it's perfect. I think Ovi being the greatest goal scorer of all time is perfect for him. That's where he should be. That's what he is to me, is the greatest power forward, the greatest goal scorer. You don't have to be on Mount Rushmore if you're the greatest goal scorer of all time. So that's where I put him now. The big one for me is Sid.
Yeah.
And you probably kind of need to make Mount Rushmore 5 because
Change Mount Rushmore here. Yeah.
we do. We have to find some more rock to carve Sid's face in, because again, I have a really hard time taking away those four in history. But what Sid is that all around. He's Sid the Kid. He's been that, just like those guys were when they were 9 years old, whether they were in Montreal, whether they were in Parry Sound, whether they were in Brampton, Ontario. The whole hockey world knew about them at that age. And Sid's the same thing. He's lived up to all of the hype and the 20 goals over point per, all of that, 20 years over point per game, all of that stuff. He needs to be on Mount Rushmore as well. So I wouldn't put Ovi on Mount Rushmore. I would just love saying that he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. I think that's what he is, and I think it's just as good as Mount Rushmore being the greatest goal scorer of all time.
No, I listen. I can agree with that for sure. Crosby, listen, his resume is just so impressive. It's crazy, but at the same time, like, this guy's still putting up 90 points, and like, they're not making the playoffs every year. Like, I don't want to see him close out his career of being a great player, putting up 85, 90 points a season, and not getting his team into the playoffs. I will say it's impressive for Ovi to do what he did this season and have, be doing it on a first place team. There's something to be said for that. So I'm not taking anything away from Sid, but at the same time, this guy's got to get his he's got to help get this team back into the playoffs at some point. Not to put it all on his shoulders, but come on, man, you can't just finish your career without ever getting back in the dance,
No, and that's going to be up to the Penguins, Kyle Dubas and that crew to continue to build here for that sake, because there's no question that the hockey world's a better place when Sid's playing in May.
Toronto, a legit, like, you look at him as a contender or a favorite?
No, they have to be a contender. I think what Craig Berube's done and instilled the defense first, and the way they've played looks different. The problem with the Leafs is that they have to get out of the first round, and then they have to get out of the second round. Like, there's nothing. The history says they have no chance. The history just says they're a favorite in the first round, but it does feel a little bit different. And again, the other problem, and really to pick anybody right now is, like, I'm not going to say that Minnesota is going to be a cakewalk anymore. Of course, in St. Louis, they're not going to be easy. There really isn't a scenario where I look at it and like, oh, this team has an easy pass, because typically that's really important to win the Stanley Cup nowadays. Is you have to the path has to fall your way with this bracket system.
Yeah.
You don't get to be the number one seed and just pick off the bottom teams, which I argue should be the way. But with the bracket, things fall differently after the first round, after the second round, and then the path opens up. So I'm having a really hard time saying one team's better than the other, because I could see Tampa losing in the first round. I could see Toronto losing in the first round. I could see Vegas losing in the first round. Obviously, Dallas or Colorado, I would pick them in any other series, but one of those teams is out in the first round. So, either I say there's 5 teams that are favorites or 5 teams that are contenders. I don't know what side that works, but Toronto's in that mix. I just, they're going to have to go through Tampa or Florida minimum. So that seems daunting.
I know. And like you said, Tampa could lose, Florida could lose. That's going to be an interesting matchup there. I don't know if Montreal or Ottawa? I mean, can they truly upset whoever they're going first place team? Like, do you look at them as being that dangerous? The wild card teams in the West seem more dangerous to me than the wild card teams in the East.
They do, but and this, I'm not doing a hot take. One for Montreal, Washington. How does Washington respond getting into the playoffs? How much juice have they had emotion-wise, all for Ovi this season?
Yeah.
Logan Thompson hasn't been nearly as good as he was in the first 3 months of the season. He's quite honestly, he's struggled, and then he's had a concussion issue. So how does that translate coming into the playoffs? They have young players. Again, I would pick Washington, but we've seen teams get into the playoffs hot, and I am curious how they reset after the Ovi celebrations of last week. The other side, Ottawa's got Linus Ullmark. He's Vezina Trophy goaltender. Yeah. Ottawa versus Toronto brings out a wild scenario in Ontario.
Emotions.
One win, one loss, emotions. Would you put your mortgage on Toronto? I guess I wouldn't, because you could see a scenario where Ottawa takes one in Toronto and everybody tightens up, and there's going to be drama in Toronto if they don't win the first round. What's Marner doing? What's Nyes doing? Where are these guys going? Do they care? All this stuff builds. And so yeah, I agree with you that those are the lesser of the 16 teams, but there is scenarios and there's still question marks on what those favorites will do when they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, we were having that. Listen, I watched part of the games last night in Big Walt's box. We were having that conversation. Obviously, Brady getting into the playoffs for the first time, but you mentioned the goaltender there in Ottawa. He can certainly be a difference maker. There's no doubt. And, they're going to have confidence, and just playing a rival right like that and how much energy is going to be in the building. And those players, from Ottawa getting back into the playoffs, the nervousness that could creep in for Toronto, which, waiting for them to actually crack and break through and get there, there's a lot of things that factor in. So I agree with what you're saying 100%, actually. So
playing with house money in the playoffs is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And that's what those teams are. And quite honestly, that's what St. Louis has almost put themselves into a spot of playing too good here where they're not necessarily house money. It's like that everyone's kind of like picking them as the darling with the finish thing. Where on the other side, Minnesota's house money, and now they get their guys back. And not only the guys come back, do they contribute for 7 points and 5 goals in their first game back. So now you're like, oh, these guys have faced adversity all year. This is full on house money for them with these two guys coming back, and now they're dangerous all of a sudden. Zeev Boyum probably going to come in. I think he can help them. So that narrative's changed a lot for me as well.
Yeah, getting those guys back. I mean, and not just any guys. I mean, those are like world-class players. St. Louis losing Holloway doesn't help, but they're going to get Parayko back. So we'll see what it looks like, man. I mean, I keep going back and forth. Do they want to play Winnipeg? Do they want to play Vegas? I think I'd rather come out of to your point, I think the Pacific bracket would be preferable, right? To take your chance. If you can get out of the first round, take your chances against LA or Edmonton versus Colorado or Dallas in the second round. But again, man, they're all going to be I'm watching Edmonton the other night. McDavid's back. They just had that huge back, So, I mean,
it doesn't count when McDavid's back.
No, exactly. All right, Frozen Four. Listen, I'm watching the games last night. I follow college hockey, but I don't get a chance to watch it as closely as you do. What do you make out of the Frozen Four this year, talent-wise? It doesn't even compare to what we saw a year ago, does it?
No, it doesn't. This year was incredible. The parity all the way back to the regionals, all 16 teams. Even Bentley, the 16 seed, gave BC a huge run for their money in the first game. All the other 15 teams could have won. That was the same going into yesterday. I would never have been surprised had we had Penn State and Denver in the final. It wouldn't have been a surprise in any way whatsoever. So the fact that it's Western Michigan, the fact that it's against BU, it lines up perfectly. Two really talented teams. One team's doing it a little bit different with the younger talent that BU has. Western Michigan a little bit older, but still playing with a ton of pace and having some two or three really good NHL prospects. But it's just the development of college hockey. The fact that it's turned into as much of a feeder system for the NHL as major junior is. and the fact that you're getting these guys that are first round picks and seeing their teammates go right to the NHL and having a difference, Snuggerud, Ryan Leonard, it just adds to the college game, and I think it's only going to get better now with the new rules.
Listen, I'm watching this Cole Hudson last night, and listen, everyone knows about the dynamic skating and what he can do with the puck on his stick and his offensive ability, but he's crushing guys. Like, is he always that physical?
I think that's hard for him to do all season long, especially in Hockey East, where there's every night's a battle. There's 11 great teams in that league, so I didn't see him do that all season, but we saw last night, especially where if you're a great skater and things are on the line, you can line guys up, and he was very physical last night. I think he's trying to prove as a young guy that he has that in his bag. That's going to be the knock against him all the way through. So if he can add a little bit of that in the game, it makes him even more dangerous.
He looked like the most impressive player on the ice of the two games. I mean, he's everywhere. Like, I mean, they got a 1-goal lead late in the game, and he's up ice looking for a breakaway. Like, what is this guy doing? Then he's forechecking, but then he steals the puck and he makes a play, and then he's the first guy back. Like, it's kind of insane to watch him play. Bullion from Denver, I was excited to see him play in person. Obviously, I've seen him on TV a bunch. A little passive. It didn't have his best game, so I can't put too much stock into that. He had the one chance in overtime where he looked dynamic and made a nice move to the net, just couldn't capitalize on it. But his future as an NHL player, how good is this kid?
He's good. I was a little, not sure, not unsure, but just, would you take, how high are you going to take him last year as a defenseman? Just how, like, is he really a top 5 pick? And I think watching him this year, watching him evolve a little bit. Again, he's in Denver, so I don't see him, live. I don't, put reports in on him, but
right.
But just watching his evolution from last year to this year, he's sturdy too. He isn't 6'5", but he isn't Lane Hudson either. He's thicker, he's built bigger, and he has a lot of vision on the ice. I think he's the kind of guy who will go to the NHL and the game will be easier for him in that the way he sees the ice is the same as all the other guys on the ice at the NHL level, college level. They're like, even with Cale Makar, I watched him and I was like, oh, he's good. I get it. I see his skating. I see his shot, but how's it going to translate? And obviously, the book's on that. And I'm not saying Bouillam's going to be that. I'm just saying sometimes these guys that have great hockey IQ, that have great vision, that skate so well, they take such a big jump when they're playing with guys that are on their level.
Yeah, that can think the same way. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Makar, they didn't have Nathan McKinnon at UMass, you know what I mean? So it's like all this.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. He's just playing. He's such a good player. And Bulliam, I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table at the next level, too. I mean, he's had an unbelievable amateur career. Western Michigan, you mentioned the pace. They just look quicker than everybody else. They've got big mobile D. You just don't know as much about them. They've never been in this situation. Western Michigan, it's not Michigan. It's not Michigan State, Minnesota. So maybe you don't give them as much credibility. But to me, they look like the best of the 4 teams. They shouldn't have even – I don't even know how that game got to overtime. They completely dominated Denver. I'm like, what is going on? I've got my 8-year-old son with me. Like, we're into the 5th period, and there's another game to go. There's no way I'm going to be able to stay for both of these games. Let's end this. I can't believe that went to overtime, Andrew.
No, me too. Believe me, I'm sitting in the studio like, oh my God.
I've been there.
Another hour and a half in here, another 2 hours in here.
Yeah.
No, they've been the best team over the first 3 games of the tournament. They were by far, like you said, so much better than Denver, who are the defending champs. What the one thing is they're the leading scoring team coming into the tournament. They haven't been able to put teams away. They went to double overtime against Minnesota State in the first game. They played a tight game in the second against UMass. And then again, last night in Denver, they weren't able to finish. They weren't able to put teams away. And that would be the only concern, the only hesitation I have with them is that they haven't proven that they could score 4 goals yet. And BU can score 4 goals.
Yeah.
And they're going to be much more dangerous on the counterattack than Denver was last night.
Okay.
When they get opportunities, BU can finish. I'm picking Western Michigan because of all the things you said. They just look like the bigger team, the faster team, the team with more pace. But they need to find a way to pull away. You can't live and die on these double overtime games and elimination. It just, at some point, a puck goes off the wrong way and you're out.
Yeah, two more things for you. Cole Iserman, how's this game going to translate to the pro game?
He's improved more than anybody on the Terriers for sure. Maybe any of the guys that are legit prospects in the NHL, first round picks. He's built in Jay Pandolfo, Kim Branville. Those guys have done an unbelievable job with the Terriers. Even Macklin Celebrini for last year as well. Like, they're doing a really good job developing these guys. They're getting them really young. They're getting the most talented kids, but they're also developing them for a pro game. And Iserman's another guy. He's more physical than he was at the start of the year. He seems to have more pop. He seems to have an understanding defensively of where he needs to be and picking and choosing when his opportunities are to go forward.
I don't get the sense that Jay Pandolfo will look to jump to the NHL. I mean, he's got a young kid now going to the U.S. program. I mean, it's a perfect lifestyle for him to be able to fit in watching his kid play and maybe even wait for his kid to come to BU. David Carl, real quick, like, what's his future at Denver? Like, how quickly do you think he leaves if he does?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know David at all. I've never met him before, so I don't have a sense personally of what it is, what happens, or where he is in his life. But you also do see this quite often, where as college coaches, the iron is hot for a little while, and then it can cool down really quickly. Depending on what you recruit, who comes in. Zeev Bouillon gone. Carter King gone, Jack Devine gone, Matt Davis gone. I'm rattling off Denver Pioneer players that have been so important for them the last couple of years. What does the recruiting class look like? If you go from national championships in college hockey, but then go down to missing the tournament, let's say, your value drops so much more if you haven't gotten to the pro game. Now, I think David Carl has a big enough name. I think he has a big enough stature that he could sustain one or two of those years and still be wanted in the National Hockey League level, but never going to be as hot as he is right now. There'll be somebody else that comes along, and typically you want to take advantage of those opportunities. College is always going to be there for him now. If it was me and I was in that position, I would love to find the most money, the most tenure in a college NHL coach, and give myself a chance now.
Yeah. While the iron is hot, which is, the point you made.
It's fleeting.
But
it's very fleeting.
But being a college coach at a program like that, in a market like that, much like Boston, I mean, you can have that type of lifestyle in those type of towns. You could stay there for 20 years, make a ton of money, and just enjoy life too.
Of course. And I think we'll see if that, I guess that's it. What's his motivation? If that's what he wants to do, then it's a no-brainer. If you do want to go to the NHL at some point, the NHL doesn't wait for you. That's my only thing. Like, it never waits for you. And I bet there's dozens of college coaches that couldn't take NHL jobs. They're like, I'm going to wait and see, or I want to stay here for a couple more years. Well, they've been there for 15 years now, and they regret not taking that chance.
Yeah. Maybe waits for Jared Bednar to move over.
There you go. He just stays in town, and then you get the best of all the worlds.
I love it. Andrew, thank you so much, man. Keep up the great work. I appreciate you coming on and giving us some time.
You got it. My pleasure. Anytime.
Right. We'll be in touch. Take care.
Love it.
All right, back here on Hockey Sense. I always love bringing in the people who make things go round here in St. Louis, man. You just never know who you're going to find who's just walking through the halls. Actually, we knew this guy was coming. David Novak, man, you hear me pumping his tires each and every week, not only here on Hockey Sense, but throughout the week on Cam and Strick as well. So he's our guy. You've been busy right now, right? Talking to that mic there.
I've been slammed since the 15th of March, with all the hail and wind storms that rolled through. We've been humping 7 days a week.
Okay, so when you see the forecast, are you like, nice, I'm gonna get a bunch of business out of this, or are you like, uh-oh, my life's about to go to hell here for the next few weeks?
I was really excited when the storm hit, which is always the case. Always want storms for our business. We always want storms to help homeowners, deal with their insurance companies and go through the process of helping them restore their homes back to or even better than before. But after about 10 days in a row of going 12, 13 hours a day out in the field and then 4 or 5 hours of paperwork at night, it's tiresome, as you can tell by my voice.
Yeah, but you still find a way to get down to the Enterprise Center for the games. Have you missed a game yet?
No. have not missed a game.
That's your priority.
That is the reason I work so hard is so I can go have fun too.
I know,
And go
I
into
know.
the games. That's another reason why my voice is shot too.
Are you a yeller and a screamer at the games?
Not really at the games, just when Town Man's going crazy and we scored, then yes. I'm not one of those screamers. Shoot the puck.
On the power play?
On the power play. Yeah. I'm going, set it up.
I like that. I like that.
I've been losing my voice, and they go, man, even homeowners are telling me, you sound like crud. And I go, you should see the other guy.
Blue Note Roofing, it says it on his shirt. You see it on the screen as well. 314-920-5713. Call him today. Although he's saying how busy he is, but he still has time to take your phone call. Trust me.
Absolutely. We're slammed right now, but we can get there within a week usually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So 314-920-5713. What are you seeing mostly right now? Is it roofs?
Yeah, roofs and siding.
It is.
Roofs and siding and some gutters and soft metals. It all depends on the homeowner's policy, how it's written up, if they have soft metal endorsements or not.
Do you do the gutter guards?
Yes.
Do you have to replace the whole gutters to do the gutter guards?
No, depending on the gutters.
Are the gutter guards expensive or no?
Some are, some aren't, and some are patented where only that company that installs them and makes them can work on them.
Got it.
If we were to do it, you could void your warranty with the manufacturer. Usually it's the gutter helmet, leaf guard, those companies that you see on TV. If you mess with those,
honor your warranty or no?
If I work on them, their warranty is now voided with the homeowner.
Got it.
And if the homeowner works on them, they're voided.
Okay.
So be careful with those. But
so what do you recommend you do then?
We install two different guards. One's a screen called Easy Lock, and another one's called SureFlow that actually gets screwed into your gutters.
Okay.
And that works a lot better, and they're relatively priced as far as what the insurance companies base it off of.
You can knock that out in one day.
Yes.
You can tell I need gutter guards.
Yeah.
I think I told you that before.
So did Jamie.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he goes, I'll call you in the spring. Well, he's been busy with the Blues.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know.
I said, I'll just wait.
And Cam's bothering you with like stuff that you don't even do.
Well, I said I would do it for him, and he called me out at the Blues game on, I think it was the Blackhawks
a few weeks
game
ago, yeah.
A couple weeks ago when they honored Patty Maroon, and he goes, I'm in the bourbon room. Get your butt down here. So
that's funny.
I left my nephew who was sitting. I told my nephew, Andrew.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be right back, buddy. I'll just meet you out in the hallway here at the intermission. Well, the Blues scored twice. He goes, Uncle Dave, I don't think you're allowed back in your seats. I said, yeah, but the Blackhawks scored one too, so I can go back in.
Yeah, you got to be superstitious.
Oh, absolutely.
If you move
got the mojo
and they score, you can't go back to your other spot.
Just go ask Joe Boo.
So if you're sitting, Joe Boo, man, he's bringing the voodoo right now.
Yeah, he is.
I'm going to get that out of one of the players too. I just been kind of strategic in terms of who I asked, like nobody else is around type thing, you know. I honestly, and I'll tell you this because I asked Robert Thomas on camera during an interview that we did. It's one of the over-the-air Channel 4 games, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the lounge, very comfortable, sitting on the couches, having a great conversation. It was a lot of fun talking with Robbie in that calm, environment, much like we would do on the podcast or whatever. And we've had Robbie on, so you can check that out on the Camera Strip podcast. But I asked him, and I'm pretty. He don't even know. Like he didn't know. Like first of all, he didn't even know who I was talking about. But then he was like, "Oh yeah, Joe Boo." It wasn't quite the phenomenon that it is now.
Yeah. But
it was visible inside the locker. You had to kind of have to look for it. Like if you see it. But Joe Boo has his own locker.
Oh yeah.
Nameplate, the whole 9 yards. And he wasn't sure. Like he goes, honestly, I don't. And off camera, he's like, dude, I don't even know like where it came from, who brought it here. So he would know now. But at the time, he really didn't. So we'll find that out. But at the same time, I don't even want to know. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to like let it take on a life of its own.
And it ties in perfectly with, rest in peace, Bob Uecker.
Yeah.
And the movie Major League.
Yeah.
Yo, Joe Boo needs a refill.
David brought me golf balls, by the way. You know how long these would last me? How many are there? 3 in a pack?
3 in a box.
They would last me 3 holes. And then I would lose them.
Well, it's got my Blue Note logo.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not using those.
Check. Oh, you got it. You can use 2 of them.
Yeah. Look at these. They got the Blue Note Roofing logo on it. I love it.
I had them printed up.
Then I could save these. Maybe just display them in my office or something like that.
There you go.
Look at that.
Display one.
Look at that Blue Note.
Hit the other 2. Lose them in the woods. Don't lose them in the water.
I try, man. I try my best. 314-920-5713. Call Dave today. Are you nervous about the Blues getting in or no?
Not getting in. I am a little worried about who we play. Winnipeg really tightened the screws on us when we were up there.
They won another big game and impressive. I think they beat Dallas last night 4-0 too. So
they're averaging shots on goal or less than 23, 22 shots a goal
against
shots a game. Yeah, against.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really putting the clamps down, and I think they're number 1 in the NHL with defensive shots given up.
Yeah, the Blues were up there too from the Four Nations on up until the last couple of games, but they were like them in Florida since the Four Nations were leading the league in shots against.
Yeah.
Right around 23, just over 23 shots against per game. And you've seen that total go up, I think, by like a shot and a half or so over the course of the last week. But no, you're not nervous, but you want to see them close this thing out. You know what I mean? And listen, when you're a wild card team, you know you're going to face a division winner. And it's going to be a team that's considered not just a contender, but a favorite, right? Right? And Vegas would certainly fall in that category.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, the only reason why they wouldn't, or maybe some wouldn't put them in the same category as some of these other teams, like a Colorado or a Dallas, even though Dallas hasn't won a cup in recent years, obviously. But, Winnipeg just hasn't been able to break through.
Right.
And you want to see them do that.
And their fans are a little worried about facing us. Yeah. And, because I've heard interviews too, and I'm going, I don't know. I wanted us to play Winnipeg, but it looks like we'll play Vegas if we get that number 1 wild card.
They're in the bottom spot right now. And Minnesota's getting healthy, right? They just got Eriksson back. They got Kaprizov back.
Yep.
So they've got a big game tonight with Calgary.
Yeah.
That's a huge game.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
Calgary just doesn't scare me. I don't know if Calgary... Here's the thing. For me, it's almost not as much about the Blues just securing the spot by winning one more game. It's like, I don't trust Calgary's ability to run the table.
Right.
I'm
with you there, but... and I think our health, too, with Holloway and Parayko getting some... We won't see... I don't think we'll see Holloway in the first round.
No, it makes a difference, man. Yeah. That hurts.
It does hurt. His speed alone. Now, I thought Dvorsky played really well in his... Technically in his spot on the third line against Edmonton the other night. That was just a heartbreaking.
A couple really good chances. Goaltender made a couple nice saves.
Absolutely. Everyone's dialed in right now. It's playoff time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so the Blues, they're losing, but they're still in games, right?
They're not getting blown out.
Two one-goal games. But I think it probably does give Winnipeg a little bit of confidence seeing St. Louis late in the season and then beating St. Louis and ending their 12-game.
Now we can't let this Seattle and Utah game slip by.
No,
we've got to get those 2 points.
That's what I mean.
Not just 1 point. We need 2 points.
That's what I mean. This is going to be a big game coming up tomorrow night. You just want to put the nail in the coffin and punch your ticket and then start focusing on the playoffs. I said this earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if Parayko plays tomorrow night. There's no confirmation on that. We'll see what the lines look like when they practice today. But I think he's good to go. Mm-hmm. And, there was no urgency to get him in.
No.
Because they were winning every game.
But we need to knock some rust off, too.
But he wants to play a couple of games before the playoffs.
Absolutely, which makes sense.
So this would give him that opportunity. I would even consider having him play Saturday and then maybe resting him next week against Utah if the game doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Because who knows what that lineup is going to look like.
Right. Kessel might get in, get some ice time. Yeah. But him, I don't know about Texier's health.
Listen, I saw Texier. He was sitting right next to me. I talked to him throughout the entire game at the Frozen Four. He's not even on the road. He's here in town. So he's been dealing with something. So
it's a shame too.
I know, because he was playing pretty good hockey his last couple of games that he played. Scored some goals.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Alexander Texier, man. He's one of the most impressive practice players you're going to see.
Yeah.
He's so skilled in practice. You're like, who is this guy? And that's
he shows
why
up in the games too when he gets his opportunity.
Yeah, he's got
which is what he needs to do.
Yeah. He's got some speed. He competes, and listen, you're going to probably have to turn to him at some point during the playoffs, assuming you're healthy.
Yeah.
We'll just see what the matchup looks like and, where the Blues' confidence is at. How much did you enjoy the 12-game winning streak, though? I mean, was that just were you what was the biggest difference in your opinion in terms of how they were playing?
They just seemed to gel.
Yeah.
Their chemistry on ice was so much... It reminded me of 19. It really did. Everyone's comparing it to it, but that is the feeling that you get when you're in the stands or even watching it on the road.
Yeah.
Just their competitiveness, their willingness to forecheck, get into the corners, do the dirty area, get in front of the net. They're just competing, and their chemistry is really shown through,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. No, they had two lines offensively that were scoring pretty much every game.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of forced to move Kyrou up to play with Thomas and Buchnevich, but they look great together last game. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they've played a lot
never
together in the
played.
past,
Yeah, exactly. It's like riding a bike. Once he gets back on that first line, it's old hat.
Yeah, but with Holloway healthy, it allows you to create a little bit of balance.
Yes.
There. You know what I mean?
Very more balance.
You don't have to just
More speed.
load up,
Yeah.
with one line. So we'll see how it goes. They've been so good defensively. They weren't as great the other night. Some uncharacteristic turnovers.
Yeah.
You don't typically see those, but they've got so much experience on the back end, which has allowed them to get through this without Parayko. It's just amazing to me that they were able to do this without Parayko. Because I will say that, all the talk about the trade deadline and moving guys, and they couldn't get Schenn to waive. But if he were to have said, yes, okay, I'll waive my no trade and accept a trade, I think you would have seen some dominoes fall. And I think some other players who were saying to Schenn, if you go, I'm going. If you stay, I stay. Because a lot of these guys have the no trade clauses.
Absolutely.
This roster could look completely different.
It could have. And the funny thing is, with them, with Schenn not going anywhere, it kind of made the rest of the team go, they're giving us a shot.
Yeah.
Let's take advantage.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? The players, I think, came together too.
Absolutely.
Doug Armstrong will be the first one to say sometimes the best trades you make are the ones you don't make,
Exactly. And if anybody, I'm trusting Army.
You love Army, huh?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
He's really good.
He's great.
What about Monty? You like the way he's
Love the way Monty's coaching.
Yeah.
Love the way. I when we first hired him, nothing against Bannister.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was the right guy to bring us into the new age with the young talent.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't expecting this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was.
It's interesting. Everyone's asking, would you rather play Winnipeg or Vegas? Coming out of the Pacific would probably be easier than coming out of the Central. If you could get into that bracket, it wouldn't be easy to beat Vegas in the first round.
No.
But I would rather probably play Edmonton or LA, the winner of that series, versus the winner of Colorado and Dallas.
Absolutely.
If you were able to get out of the first round.
Absolutely. But what did we do in 19? We had to play Dallas in the second round. Sometimes those divisional rival playoff games are more heated and more interesting. So,
and there's not a team that you would look at and say that, well, and it's not going to be a cakewalk, but there's no team that I think the Blues are overly scared of either.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So,
I agree. Their confidence level is up to here.
Yeah. As long as you get Bennington playing at the level he's capable of, and your special teams, kind of rise to the occasion. And listen, they've got a fourth line now, which is similar to 2019. That's one of the biggest comparisons I look at, is the way that fourth line came together with Sundqvist and Barbashev and Steen. And then you look at how this line kind of
the WTF
plays with an identity. And, even though they probably
aren't as skilled,
they would maybe get more ice time in a playoff game, down the stretch than like your third line. But we saw that in 19 when your third line was, Bozak, Maroon, and Thomas.
Right.
Sometimes they would take a back seat to the Steen line. You know what I mean? So
and coach and Chief always he started them off for like 4 consecutive games.
Yeah.
The fourth line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Steen and Barbashev.
And these guys are too.
Yeah. And Sonny. So.
And I guarantee you that's communication from Ott to Monty. Monty probably knows that anyway. And it's like, hey, this is what we did in 19 with our fourth line. It was great. They gave us energy and, they play the right way. There's no concern. I mean, that's the one thing in the luxury that Jim Montgomery has right now is his ability to trust any line that he's putting over the boards with the way Bolduc and these guys have been playing as of late. But Bolduc's ice time was down a little bit the last couple of games also. So I'm just, curious what they're seeing as to maybe why. I think he played 10.5 minutes or something like that a couple of games ago. So
yeah, but he's also getting more ice time on the power play.
Yeah,
because we need that shot.
Yeah, and he and Thomas have tremendous chemistry.
Yeah,
and he's going to be a power play guy throughout the course of his career.
Absolutely,
with his ability to shoot.
But then you also look at Snuggerud too, and I mean he's knocking on the doorstep. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, he'll get one. He was great in that Colorado game at home.
Yes, he was.
He was sick.
Pass he made.
Oh yeah. Made a couple nice passes. The game before that to Neighbors too. So listen, good things happening. What else is going on at Blue Note Roofing? Anything else you want to promote?
Just trying to get to as many homeowners as we possibly can, as fast as we can. Get the repairs done that they need as soon as insurance companies get out there.
Yeah.
set up, get the homeowners their insurance scopes, see what they're paying for, and then we get the homeowners taken care of as quick as we can.
Are you seeing one area of town that was hit harder than others?
Arnold, Oakville, Columbia, Illinois, and O'Fallon, Illinois
Wow.
are the
Just
major ones.
Really took
That's
some damage.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
South City too, Afton area by Lindbergh High
Yeah.
School had some good damage, and I won't say good damage, but it had damage to where, there's some roofs I just did a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
They're already destroyed from the hail, and we've already had to replace them.
Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Call them. Look for that big yellow truck. You can't miss it with the Blue Note all over it.
The driving billboard.
I love it, man. Thanks for stopping by as always, David.
My pleasure.
All your
Thank you.
support here in Hockey Sense as well. Call David Novak today.
Give me a holler.
All right, we thank David Novak for joining us. And, of course, Andrew Raycroft, man, great stuff with him. Frozen Four, final tomorrow here in St. Louis, Boston University taking on Western Michigan. I've got Western Michigan. I got the Broncos, and they look like the most balanced team. They've got mobile D, big D, and looking forward to that game. Of course, the Blues are in Seattle on Saturday. They finished the regular season back here in St. Louis on Tuesday against Utah, so we'll see if they can punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Blue Note Roofing. Again, David Novak, 314-920-5713. Listen, call our good friends at First Community as well. First Community, they've got so many options for you. So many great things happening. That Little Blues program is the best program in America when it comes to introducing your son or daughter to the game of hockey. You get a number of ice times, great instruction. All your equipment comes with it. So if you're stressing out about what to, purchase for your son or daughter, when you go to the hockey shop, you don't even have to worry about that. Great coaches, like I said, it's for a reasonable cost. It doesn't cost much money. It's the best way to do it. My son started with Little Blues, and so many of the players that he's playing with now all started in that Little Blues program. Would not be made possible without First Community. Again, dirt cheap, fun, your one-stop party shop, Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone in your life, something special from Lordo's Diamonds, right there in the heart of Ladue, 314-432-8008. Lordo's Diamonds. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy. They're the best in the business. You're looking to pop the question, go ahead and do so with Lordo's Diamonds. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Hockey Sense. We're on every platform. Tell all your friends. We'll be with you throughout the course of the Stanley Cup playoffs and into the summer. We go year-round, live from the Half Coast Studios on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice, baby. We'll do it again next week, our Friday tradition. Have a great weekend, everybody.